Joining us now is Jennifer and Amy's father, August Christ, and with him is Nathan, Josh, and Sarah's father, Pastor Mark Thomas. Do you understand what you're doing to your children in terms of, they obviously all believe now. I mean, these kids believe what you have told them, but you're sending them out there into this world preaching this hatred. Doesn't that concern you?
I'll answer you. Do you believe what your father told you?
If my
you were indoctrinated, yes, or whatever you want to call it, when you were a child.
If my father had taught me hate, I would never have forgiven him for that. Thank God my father did not teach me how to hate other people.
All you people are is hate anyone. Are you a practicing Jew?
Pardon?
Are you a practicing Jew?
Yes.
Your Talmud teaches that anybody that is not a Jew is a beast and to be exploited and used by Jews. The property of the non-Jew is to be taken by you, that we will tend your fields as slaves.
Never,
your people brought blacks to this country.
Okay, this is not going to become a debate between you and me in the show, because I want this primarily to be the kids. But let me just say, I will just say that never for 1 second in my life, ever, did anybody ever teach me that any other human being is less because of their race, because of their religion, because of how they believe in God. And I would never, ever pass that on to my child. So the answer is no. No.
What we're saying is a fact that can be proven by anybody that has any doubt about us. To read the Babylonian Talmud and see how evil, vile, disgusting that is.
You know, the problem
I look at you as the enemy.
Yeah, the problem
you're
is...
the Yehudi, Shatan.
Yeah, okay, the problem is you and I are going to pass on and move on to other things. I'll stop doing this talk show one day.
I hope my God comes before that happens.
Okay, well, you'll get your piece of flesh if you get your way. But let me tell you something.
Many pieces of flesh.
The problem is, I can tolerate your hatred and I'll survive it. But you know what? You're sending a child into this world, and this child is going to have to face.
That's only if my God does not return soon enough. Yeah. If he returns soon enough, my child's not going to have to face what you think.
Yeah. I would not gamble with my child.
He gives me a choice.
That's the difference between...
These children here are deceived. I have no animosity towards these children. It's the parents here that teach these children that multiculturalism is right. And it's evil. It's evil.
And all the parents of the world are wrong, right? All the parents of the world are wrong, and you're right. Everyone who reads the Bible is wrong, but you're right. Everybody who reads it, all the Christians that read the Bible are right. All the people that go to Catholic Church are wrong. And only God has made you two right. How can you believe that and pass that poison on to your child?
How can you believe that Judeo-Christianity is right?
The what?
Judeo-Christianity. The Babylonian Talmud teaches that Jesus was himself a devil, that his mother was a harlot. Are there Catholics in this audience that know that your book teaches that Mary was a harlot?
All right. Okay. All right.
How can you speak?
Let me just say a word.
Let me just believe what you want to believe of the Bible.
Okay, let me
believe the whole Bible.
Okay.
Love thy neighbor as one would love thyself. Yes, if your neighbor is another white Christian, not a Judeo-Christian.
Please, may I have order? Please, boys and girls, shh. I'm going to take this opportunity, and I feel a necessity to do this because the show happens to have my name on it, that I want to formally apologize to the people of whoever happens to be watching the show. The point of this show is not to preach the kind of hate that you're hearing today. The point of this show is to say that there are children that are being raised in our country that are having hateful beliefs, and how are we going to deal with it?
Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, Africans. I hope you're faring well where you are, and if you ain't faring well, please fare well where you are. Now, I really love it when a white person comes up front and they try to explain what racism is to the black people, you know, because racism might mean one thing to one person and it might mean one thing to another. Yes, let's leave the denotative meaning of the word racism, because the denotative meaning is the meaning from the dictionary. But now we have the contextual meaning. Leave out the dictionary. How is it experienced in real life And that's now the contextual meaning. So black people, we experience racism in such a way that I don't think there's any white person who can ever understand what racism means to us as black people. They may want to express it in their own terms, in their own legal ways. And this is what I call legalism. Legalism is when you try and put laws into things that really do not require legal terms and legal issues and a legal understanding, you know. Now, introducing legalism into the concept of racism is something which has really not put racism to the kind of demon it is, because racism is a bloodthirsty demon. And it's such a fascinating thing to hear a white person discuss racism, because I know that they may say they experience racism, but not in the same way that black people experience racism. And this white person is going to tell us, I want us to listen to him, gather what he has to say about his understanding of racism. I shall get back by the end of the video, and we shall also have a deep critical analysis. And let's dive in.
Let's talk about what racism is really quickly, because some people don't seem to understand it. Racism is just hatred. It's basically saying that person is terrible because they're white. That person is terrible because they're black. It's bringing hate into things because of skin color. Instead of judging the character of the person and their actions, it's judging them and stereotyping them on their color. Is it racist to say white men can't jump, white men can't dance? Is it racist to say black people are quicker runners on the whole, or white people are better swimmers than black people on the whole? I don't think it is. I think it's an observation. I don't think there's any hatred in that. It's not always true. But once you start treating someone differently with hatred because of their skin color, racism is hate. Would it matter if you knew I was a quarter black? What if I am? What if I'm not? Why does that change in your mind the truth or my right to say anything that I've just said? Again, it exists in your mind. It's a nonsense. Reach beyond it. It's simple as that. I don't think it's racist that black people can play white characters. White actors can play black characters. I don't think that's racism at all. I think when you start to bring race into things where it shouldn't exist, I think that is racism. Give the job of an actor to the voice actor, for example, to the best person that can do the voice, irrespective of their color. If there is a lack of white people in a business and you need to recruit more white people, then if everything else is equal, take the white person. Otherwise, you take the person based on their abilities. Simple as that. So racism works always, white, black, brown, and everything in between. And it is discrimination and hate based on race. That is it. Now, I didn't ask to be white, believe it or not. And I stand up against imperialism, and I stand up against all the things that my ancestors have done in the past to other countries. But I didn't ask to be white. None of you asked to be any of your races. Absolutely none of you. None of you asked to be black. None of you asked to be brown. Nobody asked to be any color whatsoever. That's the first thing that you have to understand. Second thing that you should understand is the trauma of slavery, of all sorts of slavery, still lives on today. Slavery hasn't ended. Slavery still exists in many ways. We're all economically enslaved for a start. But slavery still exists. The trauma that was passed down through generations of those people that were enslaved still exists in those generations today. And it's for everybody to heal. White people were enslaved in England. If you know a lot of white English people, they are absolutely cut off from their emotions, because that's how we were brought up. We were brought up to think of status, of money and power, and that's how you run an empire. So white people were enslaved as well. That's one of the reasons I just was having a discussion with somebody. When I've met Ugandans and Africans in general, they have an incredible spirit. And on the whole, they're far happier than the white people in England that I meet. Is that racist of me to say that? No, it's a generalization, but that's not racist. I judge each person on their actions and their behavior. It doesn't mean that I'm blind. It doesn't mean that I have to ignore what I see. I do see an emotional and spiritual problem in England, especially amongst white people. Does it matter that I'm white or black saying that? Why should it? Why shouldn't I be able to say the same thing about black people? You don't need to bring race into it. It's got nothing to do with it. I'll give you another example. Stand-up comics. If I was a white, straight, male stand-up comic, I can say nothing without anybody being offended. That's complete racism. There are different standards for white people because subconsciously white people are judged to be in some way superior. So they could not make jokes about women. They could not make jokes about black people. They could not make jokes about Chinese. But if, for example, you put a black, lesbian, disabled woman as a stand-up comedian, she could make jokes about everybody because there's this subconscious bias to think, well, she can make fun about white men, able-bodied people, straight people. See, so that's all nonsense. It's all discrimination. It's all bringing things in to the mix because of the mind, the energy of the mind, that simply don't need to exist. Judge people on their heart, on their actions and their behavior. Forget the color. Forget if they're able-bodied, forget their race, forget their religion, forget their gender, forget their sexuality. It's got nothing to do with it. That is all discrimination, absolute discrimination, because you are changing how you treat someone based on their gender, based on their religion, based on their race, based on their skin color. You are saying they can and can't say this because of those differences. That, my friends, is racism, and it's nonsense of the mind. When you go to the heart and you go to the spirit, you'll properly connect with all 8 billion people, and you'll connect to God and all of them. So you can smash past all of this nonsense, all of this discrimination that goes on. I have been on the end of plenty of racism as a white person, especially in Mexico, where I've been abused in soccer games, kicked, punched in the genitals, punched in the face because I'm white. Because sometimes there are some Mexicans that dislike white people. They think I'm white American, even though I'm English. I've been charged more money to go into, or attempted to be charged more money for drinks or entry into bars, into clubs, because I'm white. So I've been on the end of that sort of discrimination as well. That is racism. That is somebody picking and saying, that person's white, I'll treat them differently. What everybody has to do is start to see past this nonsense of the mind. And you treat people like a human being. Not a white person, not a black person, not a Chinese person, not a Muslim person, not a Christian person, not a Buddhist person. You treat them as a member of humanity, which is what they are, and deserving of basic respect, basic dignity, and love. That is where we have to get to as a human race, that we have to unify beyond all of this energy of the mind. The mind simply divides. It is infinite and it has a million reasons to hate, to dislike, to get angry. See past the material veil. Go to something deeper within your heart, within your spirit. Listen to someone who knows what they're talking about. Don't be distracted. Don't be deluded. Don't be divided. The media wants white and black to fight. The media wants rich and poor to fight. The media wants Muslims and Christians to fight. The media wants America to fight against Mexico, America to fight against Russia, Ukraine to fight against Russia, Europe to fight against Russia, America to fight against China. That's the media. Humanity doesn't want that. People don't want that. The very, very, very emotionally cut off, smart people that control the media and the world, smart in a limited sense, smart in the mind, are programming you all to hate and divide. And don't fall for it. It's a lie. It's manipulation. It's about trying to point other people, races, religions, etc. out as negative. And I'm telling you that those people that do that, the last thing they want you to notice is them and what they're doing. Love you all. God bless you.
Racism in Germany. Let's talk about it. This is Lorenz, a black 21-year-old who was shot by a white police officer in Oldenburg. Police officers claim they felt threatened because he had a knife, which was never found on the crime scene. And they also said he was threatening them with that knife, attacking them. Weird thing about that is that the autopsy actually revealed that he was shot in the back 4 times. Tell me, how do you feel threatened by someone who's not even facing you? Why are you lying? On top of that, every person who speaks up about it is being targeted by racists. People are saying the police has done an amazing job. People are dehumanizing him and obviously portraying him as evil or as a felon. Still not getting that we're talking about a human life. Also not getting that even if he was a felon, he deserves a fair trial. I mean, look at Trump. He's running a whole country. There's so many ways to destabilize a human being. They shot him in the hip, in the chest, and in the back of his head. A shot in the hip must have been enough for you not feel threatened anymore. We're gonna have a protest today in Germany. All I can say is rest in peace, for real.
Me, I have never had anything like this. I have never had anything like that. And you know, as a psychologist, I actually get to hear a lot of stories, but that one was a first. So here's what happened. Someone contacted me because they were going through a difficult situation and they wanted to ask me whether, am I going crazy? Is this what I'm going through now? And so they told me their story. They live in Germany. They're a black person living in Germany, deep in Bavaria, somewhere in a very small village. As they were telling me their story, they were like, yeah, and you know, I've been licked 3 times by some random children. Like she was in a supermarket or she was in a playground or wherever she was, and people just came, a child came, a white child, German child, came and licked her hands or licked her body part with the assumption that she must be made of chocolate. Me, I was so shocked. I don't know if I've never had anything like that. That is the height of it, you know. And I was like, what do you mean you got licked? What do you mean you got licked? And you know, I know that subtle, because that is subtle racism. I know I've heard of all variations, but that was a first for me. I don't know, maybe you guys have had things like that, but me, I have never had like anything of that kind. And the way, when she was telling me her story, like the way she's been hit by people in the supermarket, she's been insulted, assaulted on the way to, with her children. And I'm like, people, you don't have to stay in those small villages where people are seeing a black person for the first time in their whole lives. Germany is a big country. You can move if you can and go to a bigger city. You really don't have to put yourself through that.
What's fact is that black people in the United States don't have the caucasity to define crime for everybody else while excluding themselves. What's fact is that European Americans have committed a vastly disproportionate amount of crime against humanity in the United States. European Americans have unalived and SA'd people of the global majority by the millions. European Americans have destroyed communities created by people of the global majority in the United States by the thousands. And until that truth is acknowledged and reconciled, there will be no excuses.
Yes, there is racism in Germany. In fact, I remember it like it was yesterday. I was sitting in a Berlin train with a Chinese friend of mine, and when the train stopped, 4 or 5 young drunk German guys came in, slammed a crate of beer on the floor, and started verbally harassing not me, but my Chinese friend. A random Arab guy sat across from us, and him and I, we locked eyes and nodded to one another. And I could see how he was clenching his fist in preparation to take care of business if my Chinese friend was attacked. The situation ended peacefully because they didn't want none of this, but it opened my eyes to the prejudice and racism that minorities can face in Germany. And whilst I haven't directly experienced racism, I heard countless stories from Nigerian, Arab and Jewish friends of mine. The good thing is Germans are aware of the racism within their society and that discrimination within German authorities exists as well. But I don't think it will ever go away because people will always find a reason to hate you. Have you ever experienced racism in Germany or any other country? Let me know in the comments because I would love to hear your story.
So I can count the number of racist experiences I've had in Germany, but today a very interesting thing happened. So on the way back from shopping, my friend and I, we were walking in the street, and it's a residential area, so I walk there every day. It's completely fine, and we live in a good neighborhood. And so basically, there's this old guy, probably a German dude in his 80s, and he walks towards his door, and we're out basically 5 meters outside his building, and he just peeks out from his window, or door actually, and he's in a medium tone, he starts saying Ausländer, 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 which basically means foreigner. And it's sad, but also this sort of thing happens in Germany. So now the issue is I actually don't know how to process it, right? So on the one hand, I am technically a German citizen. I've been living here for the last 9 years. I can vote and everything. But simply because of the color of my skin, I will never truly be a part of society here. But also, on the other hand, this is more or less a certain generation and also a certain segment of the younger population as well, who do hold on to archaic beliefs. And also what I sometimes think about is like a lot of these old Germans were actually Nazis, and probably some hold on to those views from all that time ago. But yeah, those sort of things happen, and it's not fine, I guess. But by and large, I still haven't faced discrimination or real hardcore racism in my day-to-day life here. That is also a disclaimer I want to give. But in conclusion, I guess the question that is open is, how do you handle these sort of situations, right? Do you just let it go? Do you bring it up? Do you confront the person immediately? And then what are the long-term implications if you want to settle down in Germany? How your kids might, and as you see the far right growing, your kids, your family, or whoever might also be impacted. So yeah, that's what I mean. Like, how do you process it? What are the implications? Because this is such a small scale thing, right? And there's probably much more that is to come or might come.
Why do racist white people think that everybody else who's white is racist? Now, as being a white person, the amount of times I've been in a group of like white people and we're sitting there talking or whatever, and then they throw in some derogatory ass hit at a race or ethnicity or whatever, and I'm just sitting there like, why do you think that's okay? Like, I don't discriminate against nobody. I fuck with all my people. I don't care where you were born, what color you were, but a lot of people don't think the same way, and it's really sad. But it's even more sad when they verbalize it, like publicly. Like, there's been so many times where like a random person on the job site, or like I'll be out in public somewhere and they're talking about a certain ethnicity or race, regardless of what it is, not just like white and black here, I mean everything, and they are just like talking down on them or talking shit directly towards that race or ethnicity. Not even about the person, just about what they look like. And it's crazy because their hatred for that person is solely based on where they were from or what they look like. Because if you were talking to that person over the phone, or you grew up playing the video game with them, they would be your best buddy. But because you know what they look like physically and know where they come from, you instantly think it's okay to think they're lower than you and you're gonna belittle them and degrade. That is fucking weird. Steer clear from your boy if that's you. You're a fucking loser.
Now you, as a black person, after watching this man explain racism, tell me, is he right in his understanding of racism? Does he really even scratch the surface of what black racism is? You know? Because people say there's reverse racism. I don't think there's anything like reverse. Reverse of what? If it's a reverse, then it's not racism. It's something else. You know, if it's reverse racism, it means then you agree that your people are racist towards a certain group of people, you know, because racism in its own meaning is just a prioritization of self based on skin color. You know, you prioritize yourself based on skin color. That's basically what racism is. And racism also has some sub-branches. A sub-branch such as colorism, you know. Colorism is a major problem that has occurred from racism, you know. Colorism is when people glorify a certain color. Most likely it's always the lighter skinned are more glorified by the society more than the darker skin. So the darker you are, the more unprivileged you become, you know. And we see this is becoming a problem so much in many African countries, even my own country. Getting a job, getting married. Sometimes men want people who are light-skinned. I wonder. I remember back then I never used to see someone is black, someone is brown. No. Let it be that you came to find someone who is having a particular skin color, you understand? But not that you went looking for it, because this is nothing. What really matters is what's here and what's here. The heart really matters more than these other things, superficial things we look at. Back to racism. Colorism was just a tool of racism, you know. Now, what do you think about this guy? Is he right in explaining what racism is? Black people have experienced racism in such a way that no white person can ever understand because they never went through it. It's different when somebody tells a story, and it's different when somebody who experienced it tells it. The person who experiences it knows the details. He knows the feel. He knows the emotions. You understand? And that is how it goes. I personally believe no white person can ever even touch the surface of what we black people went through in colonization, in slavery, what we experience today in America, the shooting, you know, being looked down upon everywhere. Even in Africa, we still experience some form of racism from our own people. They prioritize the white people more than us. I have seen it. I have experienced it one day in the jungle. Yes, we were all paying the same price, but somebody is prioritized more than the other, and it's being done by our own. Yeah. So I really don't think a white person can ever try to explain what racism is. That is my thought. Share your thoughts. I want to hear about it.